Today we're going to be making lentil recipes, none of which are soup or stew. Because while lentils are delicious and some brothy goodness, I end up feeling like that's actually just most of the lentil recipes out there. So we're going to do something else. Also, hello, I'm Val and I made the website Very Vegan Val, and I love talking about food. Nice to meet you. Back to lentils. Lentils are a great pantry staple. They're high in protein, high in fiber, inexpensive, and cook relatively quickly. Red lentils cook the quickest, but today we're just going to be using plain old brown lentils. If there's a bag in your supermarket marked lentils with nothing else written on it, those are brown lentils. Now I've already rehydrated my lentils. I actually cooked about 2 pounds worth of lentils, and you can see it made kind of an obscene amount. I didn't do anything fancy. I just put them in a pot with a lot of water, some salt, and a couple bay leaves, and cooked them until tender. I think it was about 30 minutes. These are the lentils we're going to use for all of our recipes today. First up, we're going to do a recipe that's going to require no additional cooking and make a marinated lentil tabbouleh style dish.
We're going to start off with a big bowl and add about 3 cups of cooked lentils. I've got these really teeny tiny cherry tomatoes. I'm just going to cut them in half and add them to our lentils. If they were bigger, I might quarter them or even cut them into 8s. I'm going to add a few olives next. Now, these olives actually have garlic in the center, so it's kind of like a 2-for-1 ingredient. About half a cup of olives. Shallots next. I only have these really small shallots. I'm going to say that it's probably about the same size as 1 large shallot though. And we're just gonna dice them. Finally, parsley. I'm gonna set aside a few sprigs for a different recipe, but I'm gonna do the rest. You want it fairly finely minced, and then we're gonna add it to our lentils. Next, we're gonna add olive oil. A good amount. Then I'm gonna zest and juice this lemon into the bowl. The key to not zesting your fingers off is to move the lemon and hold the zester still. Now let's season with some salt and pepper and gently mix it together. I think we're good. On to the next dish.
Next up, we're gonna make a dish that I pretty much just call like meaty lentils. It's just like a very umami lentil saute thing. And I'll put it in sandwiches and wraps, eat it as it is, stick it on top of salads, even spread it on toast. It's really very delicious and it goes quite quickly in this house.
We're gonna add some oil to our skillet. And to that, we're gonna add some garlic and onion. I diced up about 1 onion and maybe 2 to 3 cloves of garlic. I said maybe 2 to 3 cloves of garlic because I don't know what's going on with the garlic around here, but those cloves are tiny. The other grocery store I went to didn't have garlic at all. Is there a garlic shortage going on? If you know, let me know. Next, we're gonna add some chili flakes. It's really up to you how spicy you like it, or in my case, how much chili I had left. And we're just gonna let this saute until the onions become a little bit translucent. Now, I don't have any mushrooms around at the moment, but when I do, I really love to add some finely chopped mushrooms here. I'm gonna add 3 cups of lentils. Our goal is not for mashed, but if they get a little bit mashed in the cooking process, that's absolutely not a problem. I'm gonna add about a teaspoon of smoked paprika and a tablespoon or 2 of this vegan oyster sauce, which has a lot of umami notes as well as some sweet and salty. I'm also gonna add just a splash of soy sauce. If you do not have access to a vegan oyster sauce, something that works very similarly is like a better than bouillon or a bouillon paste. I'm gonna chuck in a couple tablespoons of nutritional yeast, and I think we're gonna call that done. You can add all sorts of seasonings and spices to this, but I'm gonna leave it pretty simple for today.
You're gonna need your food processors for these next 2 recipes. For the first one, we're gonna keep it pretty simple and make sort of like a lentil pâté or hummus or dip type situation. Let's start off by adding our lentils. About 3 cups. A couple cloves of garlic. A couple tablespoons of nutritional yeast. About a tablespoon of tahini. And 1 to 2 teaspoons of this whole grain mustard. About half a cup of these chopped walnuts pieces, and about a 1/4 cup of pine nuts, about a teaspoon of dried thyme. Let's give this an initial process. It's gonna need some oil, so I'm just gonna add some in a little bit at a time until it's blending smoothly. Not bad, but we're definitely gonna need some salt. That is pretty good. I'm just gonna process it a bit more to get it a bit more creamy, and then we're gonna call it done. For our final recipe, we're gonna have a go at making some lentil meatballs. Now, I've never done this before, so we are pretty much winging it, but hopefully they turn out good. Next, there is no need to wash your food processor because we're just gonna make another lentil-based recipe. Start with 3 cups of cooked brown lentils. We're gonna add these couple sprigs of parsley. I'm just tearing them up a little bit so that they process a bit easier. 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Honestly, I'm getting really tired of dealing with small garlic cloves, so I'm gonna use garlic powder. Measure with your heart, and your heart should tell you about a teaspoon. Fennel seeds. Again, about a teaspoon should do it. Let's add some soy sauce. I'm gonna go for, I don't know, like 1 to 2 tablespoons. And then we're gonna add some breadcrumbs. I kind of feel like we want a lot, so I'm starting with a cup. If you don't want to use breadcrumbs and you want to do something gluten-free, try oats instead. I added just about half a cup of water. We're going to need a baking sheet lined with a silicone mat. And we're just gonna add a little bit of oil down on the surface of the mat and spread it around. If you do not have a silicone mat, you can also use baking paper or just make sure to oil your pan extra well. I'm gonna use this cookie scoop to make our meatballs. You could also, however, just use your hands. You need a good amount of space in between them so that they can cook well, but it's not like when you're making cookies and you're worried about them spreading. You just want to make sure that they have enough room that hot air can easily circulate between your lentil balls. Here they are. I've got the oven preheating to 450 degrees, and once that's hot, I'm just gonna plop this in the oven, let it cook for about 10 minutes, take them out, rotate them, and then put them in for another 10 or so minutes. All of our lentil creations are ready, so let's taste. Starting off with the first one we made, which is this marinated lentil tabbouleh-like situation. It tastes very fresh, very bright. The acidity from the tomato is just perfect. The olives do kind of take it out of tabbouleh land, although they are still delicious. Lovely. I would eat this as a side, I would eat this as a main meal, or I would add this to like a green salad. I think it would be excellent all of those ways. Our meaty lentils. I just got some very finely cut daikon slices that I salted that I'm gonna use to taste. It is very savory. It is delicious. It's a little bit sweeter than I would like, and that is because when I was pouring in the oyster sauce, I ended up getting just like a little bit more than I wanted, but still delicious. Has some sort of notes of barbecue with the sweetness and the smoky and the savory. Next up, our pâté. There is so much umami in that pâté. When I first tried it, I thought it was a little bit too salty, but I think spread in a thin layer like this, it actually works really well. You get a good amount of that sort of almost like funkiness that pine nuts have. You definitely get the pine nut flavor, and it is very rich and delicious. Finally, let's try our lentil balls. I am pleased to say these did not fall apart in the oven. I was a little bit afraid they would. The flavor is really balanced. Crispy on the outside, soft on the middle. I would say the texture is actually really similar to like a falafel. And I think they work, pretty well, both as like a meatball alternative, but also just as like a different type of falafel. I think they work really well for that as well. Thanks for cooking lentils with us this week. I hope you enjoyed a variety of lentil dishes that were neither soups nor stews. Let us know in the comments, which one of these recipes are you going to try? We'd appreciate if you liked this video and subscribed, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.